welcome officially to the call Sunday, June the 18th, continuing on our trek about talking hang on everyone, I just had a thought, talking about our ego and how we know we're identifying with our ego or identifying with our divine self, and just having a conversation about how insidious truly the ego can be, and insidious in terms of discernment, right? Not in terms of judgment. And so what I've experienced, read earlier in multiple books, but what my experience is when I'm identifying with my ego. Now, I sometimes refer to that as my personality, my id, my I. I'm not always at peace. Now, sometimes I can be at peace, meaning if I'm identifying or self-identifying something of the ego that I'm proud of, which is my ego saying I'm proud of, then it's peaceful, but it's false peace, if that makes any sense. And so when we start to see as and feel the ego, there can be often more so. Sorry, there's way too many rushing of information. I'm just going to ask the guides to slow down a little bit. That's better. Okay, there we go. Thank you, everyone. So when we stop self-identifying with the ego, what will happen is there's more peace, there's more serenity, there's more joy, there's more happiness. And I can't explain it for you. I think it will be your own feeling or sense. But I know when my ego is proud, and it has happiness and joy, versus my non-ego. And when I, tapped in and asked, is there any way that I could give an indication of what that was like for you? It was a hard pass, like a hard no, that each one of you will learn to recognize when it's false joy, right? And I would say, for me, what I can share is it's circumstantial joy. It's circumstantial happiness. So if this happens, then I'm joyful or happy. And so it's the result, right, of something. And that is more egoic in nature than when my divine self steps in and there's peace. And again, that's been my word, peace and serenity. That has been something that I had been looking for and striving for so long. And so as I learn to even identify when I'm identifying with my ego, then moving into this lack of judgment or non-judgment and approaching then life through this curiosity, like, oh, that's really interesting that this is my ego versus my divine self. Now, one thing that I wasn't taught a long time ago, and I mean through different mentors, have been taught that if I'm feeling off, the first thing I need to do is to check in, is that my feeling off, or am I feeling off from outside influences? Now, it doesn't really matter why feeling off, other than that satisfies my need to know, which is my ego, right? So I can identify whether it's mine or somebody else's. But either way, the ego is participating, right? And then and I think that's the Sherry, we kind of talked about, when is the ego, why would we need the ego? In my mind, that would be why, like identifying that, okay, this isn't mine, like, right, what I'm feeling doesn't belong to me, that belongs to somebody else. It would be my ego And again, not in a bad way, but it would be my ego that would want to know who's off, right? And there was lots of times when I first started the journey of tapping into my intuition that I would call people, and it was because I didn't trust my intuition, right? And I sometimes will still do that when I'm feeling kind of dread. When I feel dread, I phone my kids. Is everything okay? Right? And again, ego not bad, but it's like that. Oh, my need to know, my logic need to know or need to justify why I'm feeling this way. That's my ego. And so the more I can be in awareness of, oh, okay, what if I didn't need to know? What if I just recognize that that my body, my intuition is saying that something's going on out there, and I don't have to know who it is, what it's from. I can play the illusion, play the game of researching and finding out, which I love to do. So in awareness that I'm identifying with the ego, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to, like in that particular instance, won't mean that I'm not going to do research on what's going on. The difference, again, and I can only speak my own personal experiences, when my ego needs to know, it's like it drives me crazy. When my divine guides me to like do the research or find out what's going on in the collective, what I'm starting to recognize now is because I'm to share the message of what's happening in the collective so that I can share it. And again, there's no right or wrong. It'll be you tapping into you tapping into your divine source energy. And if you don't know, it's okay that you don't know. Then you can recognize that you don't know, and that there's a curiosity that you're going to follow. So when you do know, though, that it's ego driven, you can really get curious. You can ask things about like what was going on at that moment in time. What belief did I have that, or self-identity was I believing in, right? That led me down that. Then we can ask, do I still want to feel this way? Right? So we can ask stuff like that. And so then when we have enough awareness, we can choose to like stop asking the questions to find more awareness, or we can just continue on the way. But I know for certain if I'm suffering in any way. So a suffering and again, I'm only going to share my own experience. A suffering is different than an awareness of something's off. For me, that's not suffering. That's like this, like ding, 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 ding. Something's going on. If I'm suffering, I can pretty much guarantee that's my ego. If I'm suffering, I can pretty much guarantee that I've attached a meaning to something, and I'm suffering because of the meaning. And so then I know for sure that that's the ego. And so I love this in this, and I'm sorry, I can't even tell you what the book is because it's on my Kindle Unlimited. But I kind of, this popped in while I was reading the other day. The antidote to the suffering caused by ego identification is to turn your attention away from the thought stream to your present moment experience. What you are seeing, hearing, feeling, and sensing physically and more subtly. Doing this will bring you out of the mind and back into your body and senses. This is where you want to stay, because the body and senses are a doorway into presence, into Christ consciousness. From there, life is experienced very differently. And I would say that it would, for me, again, the senses are an illusion. Like what I see is an illusion. What I hear is an illusion. Um, maybe if what I smell depends. That might be an illusion as well. What I taste, that could be an illusion. That's all perception. So when I hear senses, I think of more so intuition, more so the 5C senses, like the clairaudience, clairvisual, clairsentience, those senses versus like my 5 senses from that perspective. But it really is being present. And one way, and like an exercise that I do to be present, is to breathe, like to do some really deep belly breaths or a quick meditation. Sometimes I'll journal to get the thoughts on paper, to get them out of my head, out of my illusion. But if I really want to get into my body quickly, I just concentrate on my breathing. And there's no right way to concentrate on your breathing. There's a lot of different breath work out there and easily searchable through YouTube, right? Even more so, I find, than Google, right? So tapping into your body then and really, really listening to what your body is sharing with you in the direction to go in. Because whenever you drop out of the mind into the body and into the presence, the reward is peace. It's contentment, gratitude, love, and joy. The trick is to stay in the body and long enough to drop into the presence, and then stay in the presence long enough to get enough of a taste to want to stay there. The more you're familiar with being with presence, the more the voice in your head loses its attraction, right? And so I have a neurodivergent brain. So one of the consequences, I'll say that, is there's constant dialogue in my head. And in order for the dialogue to stop, so I got cat hair, meditation, breath work, journaling is great. Exercise, some sort of movement is also absolutely fantastic. For me, water is very nurturing for me. So I have a hot tub here. So a hot tub is also extremely important for me in order for me to quiet the mind, right? Now, even as a divergent with a divergent brain, you probably still have some sort of voices or dialogue, right? And so there's a knowing that we can have when we go into a presence into our body, a sense. It will be a sense, I would say, a feeling of the peace. But just start to be in awareness. Today would be probably a great practice of what's pulling you out of your present moment. What's pulling you into worry, into doubt, into fear, right? What thoughts, is pulling you out from that perspective. And that will allow you to see what parts of your ego are at play, right? And so that we can then, when you are in that awareness, there'll be some sort of common denominator for you, some sort of thread, some sort of pattern of thoughts, pattern of words, pattern of feelings, people, situations, circumstances, your environment. And then you can go back into what we refer to as that curiosity piece, right? That curiosity piece. So that's the first thought that for today. The second thought that for today is just quick. And it came through when I was doing some human design work last night. And it's one of my gates that I have. And talking about that the resources are readily available. And here's the cool thing about human design. Let me back up for a second, is that we all have access to, or we're all of the gates, right? Because the planets, the way the planets come in, the transits come in. So we will experience of all the gates. All of us experience all the gates. And this particular gate is having the resources to create what we want when we want, and to have the faith that the resources will be there when we want them. And that if the resources aren't there, the sense that I have, I guess the message that I have was, it's that chasing and pursuing energy. And if we would stop chasing and pursuing, then the resources would stop running, right? When something or someone is chasing you, you often don't want to get caught. So just that energy of the verbiage, right? And so what if we worked, though, and not saying that material gain is wrong or bad, but there's another idea of, rather than working to attain material gain, what we worked instead towards transforming our lives and also transforming other people's lives. And what if we spent less time worrying about the revenue, the money piece? Although, and again, this could be a challenge because we require cash, right, to live a life and to live a lifestyle that we either desire or we've been accustomed to. But have you not had the experience that's even proper English, that when you start chasing things, it just starts to be like farther away from you? What if you planted yourself in your desire and you became the frequency of what you wanted, right? And so it might not make logical sense. So your ego is like, kind of, what the fuck is she talking about? But plant yourself, be the frequency of the thing that you desire. And then watch what happens, right? A lot of us in human design, we're actually meant to wait. It's called waiting for the invitation. As a projector, a lot of us aren't meant to initiate, but we've been programmed to initiate, to chase after, to go after. But it's counterintuitive, right? And then we judge ourselves for not going after it, because most of us have been raised, and if you want something, go for it. And there's truth to that, but it's not what we think it is. It's not what we think of it. So think of all the times when you decided that you wanted to create something and you thought about it and it came to you, versus the times that you decided that you want to create something, want to manifest, and you tried to quote unquote make it happen. It takes more time. Will you still get there? I believe 100%. I 100%, because on that journey of trying to make things happen, there'll be opportunity for you, right, to move through, to transcend some of those challenges. So two separate thoughts, but actually quite connected. All right. I'm just going to check in. Oh. That is it for today. Thank you so much. Tomorrow I will be in Vermeer, BC. So I will be joining you through Zoom, through, I don't know, I have my, thanks, Sherry. I have different ways to join you. Camera probably won't be as clear because I have a great camera on my desktop. And thank goodness none of you care. I'm not really sure why I felt compelled to say that. That would be my ego. my ego decided to tell you that my camera was going to be different, because really, I don't think y'all give a shit. Anyhow, love you. Have a good day. Mwah. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.